Thank you for tuning in to the Jakarta Globe News channel. Now, Indonesia and the Netherlands have long historical ties, and the relationship continues to grow with mutual respect between both nations. Various cooperations have been developed to bridge people from both nations. Now, this includes the sector of education, science, and culture. And to join us today on The Perspective is the Netherlands Minister for Education, Culture and Heritage, Minister Mariette Bussemaker. Share with us a little bit on how did that meeting go and what is the prospect for the future cooperation between Indonesia and Netherlands?
I think we had very good meetings. We talked a lot about collaboration in the field of education, of course on research universities, on science, but also, and I think that might be new, more in the field of vocational training. The Netherlands has strong vocational training, middle vocational training, but also higher vocational training. And there we related the research agenda with the human capital agenda and more practical challenges we are faced with. For example, if you look to water management, it's not only a theoretical issue,
right,
but it's also you also need people to build and
right,
to perform bridges and to know how to deal with floods in the water. So we tried to build this agenda, and I think that was one of the issues my Indonesian counterparts were very much interested in.
Minister Bussemaker, it's interesting you mentioned about vocational, and this is where Jokowi, our current president, has been very strong and very focused on, and trying to get as many more jobs, but just to have our resources to be ready in the workforce in the next couple of years. And what are the lessons that we can learn from the Netherlands? What are the best practices that Indonesia can adopt into its system at the moment?
I think one lesson might be that you need to have a close cooperation between all these levels of education. So not only research universities, but also vocational training on different levels. Because if you want to, when you are have to cope with challenges, you need to perform at different levels. So you also need to develop a human capital agenda for these different levels. That might be one lesson.
Mm-hmm.
A second lesson might be that students nowadays really like to learn in real time. So we are developing living labs. And that means that, the city, for example, is just a living lab where you can practice and where you can learn. That is the second lesson. And the third lesson might be that you need to be very flexible in your education, and that you need to have a very close link to the private sector. Because, for example, look to agriculture, another sector where also Indonesia wants to do more with the Netherlands. We know that all the developments go very fast. For example, by new techniques being developed,
mm-hmm,
or by the challenge of sustainability.
Technology as well.
So
mm-hmm,
ICT. So students nowadays, they do not have to learn from the past, but they should learn for the future.
mm-hmm.
And that means that they have to learn during their study what all these new techniques can add to their performance.
And I think Indonesia is in that transition time where it's tried to shift from theoretical learning to more practical learning. Now, like I said earlier, we have shared long historical ties, not just in the education sector, but how do you view, in your perspective, the current cooperation between Indonesia and the Netherlands?
I would describe the current cooperation as very good, as warm, knowing that we have shared but also difficult past,
mm-hmm,
and that we want to make steps to the future.
mm-hmm,
And I think education, culture also, but education especially, also exchange of students is a very good way to develop this kind of new ties, new bonds between Indonesia and the Netherlands. And I think we have a lot of international students in the Netherlands. We also have a lot of English-speaking courses, and we have a lot of Indonesian students who really like to be in the Netherlands. And one of the things a couple of students, alumni from Dutch universities did, they wrote a book, which is now performed also as a film, Negeri Oranje.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's for us, it's wonderful to see. Yeah. But it's also a kind of surprise. Yeah. And it's also interesting for us to see the movie or to read the book, because you see these, to look to your own country from the eyes of a foreigner.
It's interesting you mentioned about the painful history that we had, but that's also one of the very foundation why Indonesians would like to learn more, and the Netherlands would like to learn more as we exchange that culture and heritage since the colonial times. Now, do you think the implementation of these programs and cooperations, specifically in the education sector, has been satisfactory to this date?
In a certain way, yes, indeed, a lot has been done, but still a lot also has to be done in the future. So that's why I'm here, also to stimulate this kind of collaboration. And in my delegation, there are also important members from research universities, from institutes of vocational training, to see how we can also make it more accessible for Indonesian students to find their way in the Netherlands. And we have a very good office, a NASO office here in Jakarta. That's very helpful in doing that. But also by trying to stimulate Dutch students to go to Indonesia, because the difficult history we have also means that also from the Dutch perspective, Indonesia still is a special country.
They have a soft spot for Indonesia, and vice versa, Indonesia for the Netherlands. And what could be best be done to improve the shortcomings of these cooperations in your view?
You know, I think foremost to exchange students and researchers, but especially students. They are the best ambassadors. And I know there are a lot of alumni from Dutch universities here nowadays in Indonesia and in Jakarta, and they will visit the conference. We will soon this afternoon will take place. And you know, they also can tell their story from their own perspective and not from a book. So I think that's very important. The other thing is that we have to select a couple of items where we really say we want to have more cooperation,
more focus on.
And one is agriculture, but also the agri-food. But also, you know, quite another subject, creative industries. That's how do you deal with architecture? How do you deal with new performance by, for example, clothing, manufacturing,
the fashion industry,
industry. Also medicines and medical science is an issue. So water management, logistics, nanotechnology, and that are all fields that we are quite strong in the Netherlands. And for us and for Indonesia, I think for both of us, is that something to offer to have more cooperation.
All right. Minister, we'll be right back after the short break. We'll come back and talk more with the Netherlands Minister of Education, Culture and Science, Mariette Bussemaker, right here on Perspective.